We're about to meet one of the outliers of the Berlin food scene. A man who knows a thing or two of what hardship is, what it means to grind, what it is to survive, and from that process, create. We're about to meet one of the key innovators of Indian food in Berlin, a man who goes by the name of Zed.
I'm Zed. I was born an orphan. I was raised by Punjabi Canadians while young. I spent my teens on the streets, then joined the Foreign Legion. Finally making my way out into the world of gastronomy.
Zed, good to see you, man.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us in your kitchen, man. It's good to be here. So, there was a big story of yours. Big story getting here to where we are now in Moksa. It began for you in Canada, Vancouver?
Indeed, that's where I had grown up with a few different Punjabi Canadian families while I was young. Before I left, I was taught just typical house cooking. So I developed a tongue for what they had eaten there. Not exactly Punjabi cuisine that you would have in India, but rather what you would have in Canada.
Right, like a Canadian Punjabi style cuisine. I guess you would have associated yourself as kind of part of the Indian community, of course.
For me, it was just growing up with other people. Definitely when you leave that area and you go to a different area, you do notice that change where if I was to go out to the shopping markets there, you'd go walk down the aisles, and instead of having what your typical Western selection might be,
yeah,
you have just rows and rows of different namkeens, which are like Indian snacks. You'll have samosas being sold at the counter instead of like your typical bread with random fillings. And then coming here and not having any of that was a big thing for me.
So for you, that's your taste of home. That's your childhood. It's Indian, right? So for me, if I'm going and eating a Sunday roast and Yorkshire puddings, but for you, it's that. So after there, you spent time on the streets as a teenager.
Nobody at that point wanted to have me anymore. I left on my own will, unfortunately, to the streets. I don't remember too much about it because it was mostly just the same thing every night. Like you're outside, it's cold. I survived mostly off packaged noodles then, so my taste went from the typical Punjabi household to then just eating dried noodles with a little bit of flavoring.
Wow.
Till probably my later teens, where I eventually tried to clean myself up and get off of that, the streets.
How did you do that? Where did you go?
As a few people that I had met, they were living kind of a more typical life, and I kind of was attracted to that. So they helped me get off the streets, they provided me an apartment, food, helped me find work, and had a bit of a desire to go to Europe to start something new, because I felt like Canada for me was just filled with bad memories, and I wanted to create new ones, better ones.
And then, am I right in thinking you trained in India at one point?
Yeah.
With some hardcore chefs, in your own words?
Yeah.
How do you get to India?
Well, eventually I made my way over to Europe via the French Foreign Legion. It was an opportunity that says, come work for us. After you work for us, we'll grant you French citizenship, and then your access to Europe is granted.
The French Foreign Legion, for some of our viewers that don't know, is, it's an iconic branch of the French military. Is that right to say?
It has a lot of story to it.
Yeah.
These days, obviously things have changed. But they still have a very intense training regiment. For me, I remember going through that and coming out a completely different person, more disciplined, more focused. It definitely puts a big change on you. So I eventually left, and then my goal after that was to hit up Germany.
So you came to Berlin after leaving the Legion, straight away?
Yeah.
Before going to India?
Yeah.
And you got a job in the kitchens.
Exactly. I decided to try to create my own concept, because at that time street food was starting to take off, it was starting to become popular, everyone's kind of doing their own thing, and I wanted to get into that. And going back to how I grew up when I was young, my tongue was still for Indian cuisine. So that's the point where I then took a trip over to India.
Right.
So
you saw a gap in the market. Street food's just taking off in Berlin. You've arrived. You're doing food, and you were like,
I got in touch with a business consultant for gastronomy all over India. So she consulted different restaurants, concepts, built them up, made them famous over there. She was the one who got me contacts to different restaurateurs, to culinary schools, to people who are doing anything food related, so that not a single second was wasted.
wow. So you went out there and you were straight in at the deep end, training
Exactly.
with some of the best.
Exactly. I found some of the best
Amazing.
chefs you can find in India at that time. And I approached them personally, each one, said, hey, here I am. I want to learn whatever it is you have to teach me. I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'm here to volunteer, and so on and so on.
Amazing.
And in that time frame, I also managed to hook up with a lot of different local creators over there who are making their own spices from their own spice farm. So now I have my spices now come from an organic spice farm in India.
Oh, wow. So they were connections now that you're still in touch with.
Exactly.
Wicked. So you finally make it back to Berlin and you create Moksa, which means?
I think for the most common one, it means to be set free, liberated, or released. You have here in Berlin, pretty much everywhere in the world, probably the same kind of scene where it's just the same Indian restaurants in a repetitive concept that does work, but it doesn't really produce what people are really starting to look for these days. So the name Moksa comes in there to say, hey, we're breaking away from what that concept is, and we're going to do something different. What that might be is what the journey's all about.
Now, most importantly, well, not really. Importantly, what are we cooking?
So what we're going to be making today is the dish that I very first learned over in India. I learned that from a place called the Moti Mahal, which is in Old Delhi. This was the place that was started by the guy who invented tandoori chicken, who alongside that also invented butter chicken and dal makhani, which is probably the most three famous Indian dishes you'll find anywhere in the world right now. So his name, Kundan Lal Gujral. So this man, he started back up in the early 1900s, this idea to put meat on a skewer inside an oven, which is essentially used for only baking naan. So he, at that time, was a bit of a pioneer. He was working at this in a sweet shop in Peshawar, which is now part of Pakistan, so before the partition actually happened.
We learned that recently.
Yeah. And then he, as the partition happened, he moved that over to Delhi, where he started the Moti Mahal. And there he brought his tandoori chicken, made it famous, where he also invented, after that, the butter chicken and the dal makhani.
Butter chicken, one of my favorite all-time dishes.
Amazing.
Klaus, come in here. Check out this kitchen. Let's cook.
So this is the tandoori chicken. So I take the raw chicken, I toss that with a bit of lime juice and a bit of pickling salt. Then I let that sit for a few hours. After a few hours, I'll take that and toss that into a marinade that is from the yogurt, which I make here myself, and some of the spices that I get out of India. I let that all soak in together and let that go into cooling, where I let that for about 2 weeks, where the spices slowly seep into the core of the chicken, while at the same time slightly giving it a bit of a fermented touch to it, where at the end, when it goes into the tandoor oven on the skewer there, it'll smoke, and when it comes out, it'll still have retained a lot of the juice and have such a deep flavor and a nice little crisp to the outside.
Guys, what is your favorite savory Indian dish? Your number one favorite? Let us know in the comments. You want to see some food porn? Like, subscribe. Hit like now. Like, subscribe for food porn in 3. Let's do this. Oh, wow. Did I do that the right way? No. Is it right hand? It's right hand.
There's no right way to do it. Just get in there, grab it, tear it.
Oh my God. All right. So this is it. How long's the 2-week marinade? Fermented.
You gotta give it a long marinade. If you do a 24-hour thing, and you check it, the spices are still on the surface of the meat. They haven't even penetrated.
I'm not exaggerating. It's the best. I think it's the best. It is the best chicken tikka I've had. Honestly, that's incredible. It's so moist and flavor packed and layered. There's so much going on, but it's not overpowering. It's subtle, but it's intensely there. Oh, mate, that's fucking amazing food. Okay, here it is, the goat keema. The goat keema.
Mutton seek kebab.
Mutton seek kebab. Oh, wow. Oh, my God. It's amazing that you're doing this right here in Berlin, where, I mean, I don't mean to disparage anything that's going on here, but it's hard sometimes to get, it just is hard to get good Indian food. It's hard to get some things an upper level of quality. That is unbelievable. I've never had anything like that. That's so intensely spiced with like flavors that I haven't had before, actually, mate. It's, yeah, really, 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 really wicked. Zed, you've got to go and work. There's customers walking in the door. Thank you. This is incredible. Great work, chef. Thank you.
Very welcome. Enjoy the rest.
We'll see you soon. So good.